Hello there, this is a short tutorial today discussing first inversion chords and their function in as the information fits within Unit 7 of the Level 9 Royal Conservatory Harmony course. So what I'm doing is sharing my screen now, and we will be working through a variety of different aspects of this. I will be referring to various parts of Unit 7, which starts on page 75. Now, basically, first inversion chords, especially within piano music, can always be organized even when various notes are played in multiple parts of the keyboard, and sometimes notes are duplicated or written many times. You always want to look for the lowest note of any chord grouping in either treble clef, bass clef, or both. So for example, in this first example, 7.1, we have the tonic chord where the lowest note is A flat in the scale of A flat major. But then the next chord here, with the lowest note here is this G. But you can see how the spelling is E flat, G, B flat. So with the G being the lowest note, the spelling of the notes of the chord is actually G flat, B flat, E flat, sorry, G, B flat, E flat, excuse me, which if I were to draw it would look like this. But then if we do our organization of this inversion chord, we know that the root is actually E flat, and so therefore, even though the G is the lowest note, that helps us to determine which inversion we have. Now, anytime we have an inversion of a chord, it will always be determined by whatever the lowest note is. So you always want to assume that all of the material that we've been learning so far has the lowest note being the root, but now with first inversion chords, it's not, the root is not always going to be the lowest note of a particular harmony. We did see some inversions of chords with the cadential 6/4 or the cadential 6/4 dominant function, and that's outlined in another video. But here we will be speaking specifically about first inversion chords. Now, something else that's an interesting overview I can speak on is that by highlighting the little 6 here, that tells us, and with each of these chords here, that there are first inversion chords whenever there's over the Roman numeral that outlines the chord itself, and then an Arabic or traditional 6 is written beside it. Traditionally as well, if we see the same chord occur again with an inversion going to the root position, like in this case, then we would call the other inversion where we go to the root position 5/3. So here, technically, we could say V6 and then V5/3, but because it can get really redundant writing that same thing over and over again, the 5/3 basically, those numbers signify the inversion going from root position to the next inversion, which is actually keeping things organized. Something else that's neat is that now that we have the opportunity to use the first inversion chord in a minor key, we discovered that the 2 chord is diminished when it's written in root position, but it's still a diminished chord when we play it in first inversion. But it's not as dissonant because there's an interval of a 1/6 between the lowest note, which is the 1/3 of the chord, and the highest note, which is the root. That's the interval that creates that diminished chord, which is a diminished 5th, is displaced. So let me switch the camera so you can see here. If I were to play B diminished, B, D, F, and then go to first inversion, now the root of that chord's on the top, the 3rd is on the bottom, with it being a first inversion chord, and then the 5th is in the middle. So there's an interval of a sixth that outlines the chord, and then there's also an augmented fourth in the middle. But because the sixth is the outlying grouping of notes, or the outlying interval, it creates a less dissonant sound than the root position to diminished chord. So this chord is favored, especially in a minor key, in different progressions, especially in Bach chorales. Now, when writing in four-part harmony with the 1, 4, or 5 chords, the tonic, subdominant, or dominant chords, something that's important is, of course, when we are writing in first inversion, that you want to make sure to still observe specific rules related to doubling the third. Now, it's always in best practice whenever we write a first inversion chord to know that the third is being covered by having it be the lowest note of that particular grouping of notes. And so you don't, unless absolutely you have to, it's 99% of the time best to just leave the one third note in the lowest part of the chord and then write other notes, either the root or the fifth above. We will also be discussing the dominant seventh chord and its various inversions in another video. We're just speaking on triads today. Now, something that really will help with using first inversion chords is the possibility for fewer leaps in the bass. That helps to create smooth voice leading, not only with all the other voices, soprano, alto, tenor, but also the bass can sometimes have stepwise motion or smaller jumps. So it really helps to create smooth voice leading. But as well, something that's really interesting with first inversion chords is it's the potential for more note errors, voice leading errors in particular. So it's always good to check for parallel fifths, parallel octaves, any voice crossing, and also the correct doubling of the specific notes in the chords you're writing. So I hope this overview is helpful, and look forward to seeing you at the next video. Take care, and bye for now.